Hi, my name is Mike Bowers. I'm an engineering manager at Cambium Networks. And I'm going to take you through a demo today of how to download and install a wireless advisor. So the first thing I've done here is I've gone to our Cambiumtools website, which is cambiumtools.com. And I'm going to go to the wireless advisor link here. And we can see here that we've got a section for files and documents and tutorials. Obviously, if you're watching this, you found the tutorials portion. I'm going to go to files and documents. And what I'm going to get here is a list of the various installation options that we have available. So you can see here that we've got a Windows installer, a Linux installer. So what these are going to give you is not only the Wireless Advisor core code, but it's also going to give you some supporting applications that Wireless Advisor needs. In this case, an Apache, PHP, and Postgres stack of applications. All of these are items that Wireless Advisor needs in order to run properly. In addition, we also have just the core backend files packaged up as both a Windows zip file and a Linux tar file. And these can be used in cases where you already have your own Apache, PHP, and Postgres stack and just want to integrate the Wireless Advisor backend and front-end code with that. And there's some directions in the documentation on how to accomplish that. So I'm on a Windows platform, and so I am going to select the Windows executable here, and we'll wait for that to download. And actually, I'm just going to cut to the chase and run it as soon as it's downloaded. So once the file is finished downloading, I'll go ahead and let it run here. Okay, our installer is ready to go. And as you can see, it's just kind of a standard wizard-driven installer. I'm going to go ahead and click Next here. And you can see here that we've got a number of different options that you can check with the install. If you have specific types of equipment that you're only going to be managing with Wireless Advisor, then you can kind of disable the ones that you don't want to use. If you do go down that route, then I would, we definitely have to have the core files installed. And unless you're providing your own stack of applications, the Apache, PHP, and Postgres engine, I highly recommend that you keep the Bitnami stack installed as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and click Next at this point and install everything. And I like to keep things up top of the directory structure, so I'm just going to change this, but you can leave it to default or move it to whatever you want to. Okay, and on this screen we can see the actual port that the web server is going to run on, which is the Apache server port, and that's going to be port 8080. That's going to be important to note later when we go to actually verify that the installation occurred properly. We'll have to make sure that we point the web server to the right port. Typically, by default, we'll install this as 8080, but you can change this number to whatever you want. As well as for the Postgres port, this is where the database is going to be running on, and the Postgres password that will be used for the database. So I'm going to leave all these at default and just click Next. Okay, we got a brief summary there, and then now the installer is going to go off and start installing the files, and it's going to do a number of different things. It's going to install the backend files. It's also going to launch the installer for our Bitnami app stack, and it will install and configure the Apache, PHP, and Postgres services, and then also update some configuration files so that Wireless Advisor backend will be integrated directly with that whole stack. So at the end of the installation here, we'll be able to launch a web browser and point it to the web server, and we'll be able to verify at least the basic installation. Okay, at this point the installer is done running, so I'm just going to click on Done here. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and launch the backend installer. And there's actually a quick link to that that gets installed but I'm just going to go ahead and do it through the command line since that's how you're going to need to install it for or to run it for Linux as well. So I'm going to go to the location where I installed Wireless Advisor and then go into the Backend directory, WABE, and then go into the scripts folder. Okay, we can see a number of scripts here to do things like create the database, reinitialize the database, reseed the database, and so on. And again, there's information in our documentation on what each of these do. I'm just going to go ahead and run our start script, which is start.bad, and that's going to launch the back end. Okay, at this point we get a message that says all services have been initialized. So I'm just going to minimize that, and then I'm going to go and change this to http://localhost:8080, which is where we told the installer that our default was for the port for the web server. All right, and that's going to bring up the login screen, and by default the login is Cambium. Password is also Cambium, all lowercase. Okay, and this will bring me to the sort of initial screen for Wireless Advisor. And as long as we see a view of the map here with a couple of devices and a link between them, we know that the installation was successful. So at this point, Wireless Advisor is ready to be initialized. I would encourage you to move on to Tutorial 2, which goes through the whole process of initializing Wireless Advisor with data about the devices and the links between devices, so that it can begin managing your network. So that concludes this tutorial. Thank you very much for your time.